The key is that the damage of this Shadow Blade that exceeds 100 million is only the damage of the poison element. All other damage has been immune. If it is not immune, how much damage can this damage cause? Qinfeng is calculating the damage value accurately. According to this damage increase, the damage suffered by the Bone Eviscerating Blade should be increased by about 15 times, taking into account that I am now attacking and moving at the same time. I have received the full 10 times damage increase of the Deathwing Angel bloodline. In addition, there is also the 5 times death poison damage brought by the mercy of the Goddess of Death. All of these are added together, and it is really close to 1,000 times. However, one Shadow Blade costs 100 million. Which is still too low for the health bar of the boss of more than 100 billion. Even if I throw more than 200 Shadow Blades per second, it's only more than 20 billion per second. 5 seconds to kill a boss seems a bit slow. If Qinfeng's idea was known by the strong in the Land of Order, I'm afraid their eyes would pop out. 5 seconds to kill a boss? Anyone can do it. But you have to see what grade of boss it is. Generally, bronze and silver bosses can be killed instantly by any strong player. Even emerald and diamond level, high-end players can kill them instantly. But when it reaches the epic and legendary levels, the difficulty for players of the same level to kill instantly is completely different. Not to mention the mythic level. Not to mention the enhanced version of the mythic level, the Spine of the World. But it's okay. The 100 million poison damage of this Shadow Blade is only the first stage of the death poison. The death poison attached by the Goddess of Death's mercy lasts for a total of 8 seconds. And there is damage every second. It's a pity that this continuous poison damage can't enjoy the throat-cutting effect of Grant of Liberation. Otherwise, it would be even more explosive. But even so, it's already very terrifying. In the first second when Qinfeng threw the dart, more than 200 Shadow Blades caused 23 billion death poison damage to the boss. In the second, more than 200 Shadow Blades, plus the subsequent damage of the death poison in the first second, caused a total of more than 40 billion poison damage. Then it was the third second. The continuous damage in the first 2 seconds, plus the Shadow Blade thrown in the third second, directly let the boss's health bar of more than 100 billion disappear like a meteor in the continuous damage of the death poison. The health bar that was originally several hundred meters long in the eyes of the surrounding players was deducted at the speed of light in less than 3 seconds. The time it took for the health bar to disappear, to be precise, it was 2.5 seconds, or even less than 3 seconds. Because Qinfeng hadn't thrown all the Shadow Blades in the third second, the boss was already dead. This series of horrific death poison damage burst, even Bai Ya was dumbfounded. She knew that Qinfeng's damage was horrible, but she didn't know it was so horrible. The Heishin-Xing civilization where she used to be, after sending a death squad to figure out the boss mechanism, sent hundreds of the most elite people, and finally killed the boss's first life after going through untold hardships, and now Qinfeng, just swish, in less than 3 seconds, killed the boss's first life. Is this reasonable? And doesn't the boss have a limit to injury? What's the limit? Of course, Bai Ya didn't know that Qinfeng's death poison directly ignored the limit of injury. Even Bai Ya was silent. Not to mention the ordinary players who were fleeing around. Some of them were just complaining that Shadow had activated this boss, putting them in danger. They were thinking that they might not be able to return to this area for a while, but they never expected. When the invincible shield of the boss was broken, the health bar suddenly disappeared. Fuck. Is this a cheat? What skill did he use to kill the boss? I didn't see anything. The thousands of players around them all widened their eyes. Looking unbelievable, this scene really shocked them for the rest of their lives. If it was in a normal online game, they would definitely laugh and curse with contempt. Cheat, Sima? Cheat. But this is a game abandoned by the gods. This game is completely linked to reality. Even if someone is cheating, it's because they are good at cheating. For a moment, all the players in the surrounding area were silent. However, just as the players were shocked, something strange happened. The giant mountain that was originally towering into the clouds was dyed. It turned into a dark green poison element, color, and then exploded around in an instant. Countless pieces of rubble with a diameter of 3 to 5 meters split around. This is... Bai Ya mentioned the resurrection ability of the second world spine. At this moment, Bai Ya quickly reminded, little brother, each of these pieces of rubble has super high anti-injury. You have to be careful. Don't die. Super high anti-injury. Qinfeng narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Sister, you said this. I've been prepared for it. Bai Ya mentioned before that these pieces of rubble have anti-injury. Qinfeng naturally took it to heart. He had already prepared countermeasures. Before, the Heishin-Xing civilization where Bai Ya was located did not know how many pieces of rubble this world's spine mountain would split into after the death of the first life. They did not know the exact number, but now Qinfeng directly felt through the Umbra perception that the supergiant mountain was split into 999 pieces of rubble. At the same time, there was a countdown on each piece of rubble. The countdown was as long as 300 seconds, which means that as long as all 999 pieces of rubble can be killed within 5 minutes, the boss can be prevented from resurrecting if it fails. During this period of time, the more rubble is killed, the stronger the attack power of the resurrected boss will be. The Heixing civilization where Bai Ya was located only killed 72 pieces of rubble at this stage, and then because the boss's damage increased sharply after resurrection, resulting in the huge range of shockwave damage, some of them could not resist, and eventually caused the group to be wiped out. Of course, for Qinfeng, this does not need to be considered, because Qinfeng naturally wants to break all these 999 pieces of rubble within a limited time. Each of these rubbles has a durability of 100 million. Each time it is attacked, it will receive a maximum of 1 million damage. Qinfeng has thrown out the Shadow Blade and found that this limit of 1 million damage is the underlying mechanism of the boss. Even his death poison cannot break through its limit. This can also be understood as a divine rule. The consumption of divinity exceeds the mercy of the goddess of death, so the characteristics of the death poison are suppressed. In addition, when these rebels are attacked, they will release full damage rebound that ignores shields and dodges, and add an extremely disgusting treatment ban effect. Once the rebel is attacked, the player will not be able to recover life in any way for 20 seconds. Only after 20 seconds, when the health value is healed by the priests, can you continue to attack carefully to prevent yourself from being killed by the counter injury? Under normal circumstances, this mechanism is not a strategy for single players at all, and Qinfeng completely ignored. Qinfeng raised his hand and summoned a purple beauty snake mount beside him. Long-tailed snake demon Samia, Hell Boundary Monument. As Qinfeng's command was issued, the beautiful beauty snake just appeared and then raised her hand elegantly, releasing an ancient boundary monument from hell to Qinfeng's side. Under the effect of this boundary monument, Qinfeng's health value is locked at a minimum of 1 point, and he will not die within 60 seconds. Then, as long as all these rebels are destroyed within 60 seconds, the second world spine will be considered complete. Qinfeng released the Shadow of Killing again, and the main body and 5 shadow clones threw shadow blades around crazily. As Qinfeng's shadow blades flew towards the countless rebels around, all the rebels exploded one by one, although the damage to these rebels was only 1 million at most, and the durability was 100 million, but each of Qinfeng's shadow blades could easily reach its damage limit. In other words, 100 shadow blades could destroy one rebel. The most terrifying thing is that Qinfeng's shadow blades can be infinitely ejected, and the farthest ejection distance is close to 1 kilometer. Every time the shadow blade attacks a rebel, it will be ejected towards the nearby rebel. Qinfeng and his 5 shadow clones throw more than 200 shadow blades per second, and each of these shadow blades can eject every rebel. So, Qinfeng only threw the shadow blade for 1 second, and all the rebels in the field will be destroyed by the shadow blade ejection sooner or later. Under normal circumstances, when these rebels are damaged, they will rebound the damage in full. If there were other players, even if they had strong range group attack capabilities, they would not be able to attack as freely as Qinfeng. Once they were killed by the counterattack, they would lose 50% of all attributes forever. It is impossible for anyone to be as unrestrained as Qinfeng. Even some invincible skills, such as the 5-second Real Man, have no effect in this situation because the counterattack belongs to the category of divine rules, directly breaking all shields. Damage reduction and invincibility only means that are also divine rules can resist. For example, on Qinfeng's side, the divine skill, Hell Boundary Monument released by the snake girl Samia, under the effect of the Hell Boundary Monument, Qinfeng's Shadow Blade had just started, and his health bar was almost emptied in an instant. It finally locked at only 1 health point. Completely locked. Bang, bang, bang. A series of large pieces of rubble burst and rang throughout the venue. The flying rocks, each with a diameter of several meters, were shattered one after another. Qinfeng's Shadow Blade didn't even show up. When Qinfeng was invisible, all his attack trajectory and special effects were also invisible. In the silence, the killing intent had already filled the whole place. Bai Ya felt that Qinfeng used the massive amount of terrifying damage she created to smash the stones that were crushed from the world's spine, and it felt unreal. She was used to this damage, but how did Qinfeng deal with the counter injury from those stones? Bai Ya really didn't know. She could only feel Qinfeng's soul, completely staying in place without moving. Everything that happened in this short period of time made the little sister who became a weapon feel dizzy, and in this game area, as the health bar of the entire mountain was deducted and thousands of broken stones burst out, countless players around were dumbfounded. The boss's health bar was so long, but it suddenly disappeared. Where's Shadow? Why can't I see Shadow? He won't leave his invisibility when he attacks. And there's no sound when he attacks? It's outrageous that my mother opened the door to outrageous things. What are those rebels? I don't know. It seems like it can be used to attack. Let me try it. Warning. Everyone, don't attack those rebels. That guy was killed by the counterattack just now. When someone used a super long-range attack to try to attack those rebels, and then was killed by the counterattack, the whole audience was in a boiling state because they clearly saw that the durability of those rebels was being rapidly reduced, and it was obvious that they were under attack. It was obvious that it was Shadow that was attacking. But, obviously, these rebels would counterattack when attacked, so how could Shadow block it? Each piece of rebel has 100 million durability, and if a piece of rebel explodes, there will be 100 million counter damage. How did Shadow do it? Unbelievable. With the current level of cognition of these players, they can't even feel how strong Qinfeng is. After all, the level is completely different. For them, the only explanation for this is that Shadow is cheating. Otherwise, what else is possible? One by one, the players were stunned. As for the players from Tianju country who had died at the hands of the boss once and lost 50% of all attributes, they were originally expecting Qinfeng to die at the hands of this World Spine Mountain, but they never expected that the boss's health value of more than 100 billion was killed by Qinfeng again. However, they didn't hear the global prompt that the boss was killed, so there was still a glimmer of hope. Looking at boss exploded into countless stones, and they thought there would be a chance. As a result, these stones were also shattered by the invisible attack. After just over 10 seconds, more than half of the 999 pieces of rebel in the field had been shattered by Qinfeng's Shadow Blade, and under the protection of the Hell Boundary Monument, Qinfeng's health value always remained at 1 point, and he would not die anyway. Unless the opponent has a damage skill that consumes more than 97 points of divinity, it can break through the protection of the Hell Boundary Monument. However, the mythical boss obviously does not have this means. If it is an ancient boss, it may have the ability to shorten the duration of the Hell Boundary Monument. It may even have a high consumption divine stunt skill, but the rank of the mythical boss limits this second world spine, and it does not have these abilities. Mythical. It is just mythical. Even if it is strengthened, it is still mythical. In other words, if this boss has those abilities beyond the myth level, then its rating will naturally go up, and it will not stay at the myth level. In this way, the difficulty of the third world spine will not be too high. After all, the third world spine is just a more powerful myth level boss, Qinfeng thought. That being said, he will not underestimate his future opponents. Before taking action, he will definitely collect enough information in advance like this time. As long as I defeat the third world spine, I can go to the Yulan civilization. Soon, Qinfeng continued to throw more and more Shadow Blades. The anti-injury effect that was fatal to other players was useless in his eyes. However, there was one thing that made Qinfeng a little depressed. That is, although the snake girl Samia summoned this time was still very obedient, there seemed to be some weirdness and hostility in her eyes when she looked at Qinfeng. The boss was not completely dead yet, and Qinfeng even had the time to ask Samia, "What's that look in your eyes? Have I changed in any way?" The purple-colored, mature-looking, beautiful snake looked at Qinfeng with a pair of purple eyes, frowned, and said, "You seem to have his aura." Qinfeng was immediately filled with questions when he heard this. If a wife said this to her husband, the husband would be very nervous. But Qinfeng was not nervous at all. He knew what was going on after a little thought, and shook his head at Samia. "Wrong. What you feel is just the power of the psychedelic authority, not the psychedelic dream god you think. This beautiful snake mount used to be a subordinate of the psychedelic dream god, leading the long-tailed snake race to fight for the psychedelic dream god. But later, the whole tribe was killed in a war. So, this beautiful snake betrayed the psychedelic dream god, and now, everything has changed. I don't know how much time has passed. The psychedelic dream god has become a thing of the past, and only the psychedelic authority that has been preserved has been obtained by Qinfeng. Authority." Hearing Qinfeng's words, the beautiful snake Shamia's expression changed slightly, and a touch of shock emerged in the depths of her purple eyes. Although she knew that this human assassin, Shadow, was very strong, but she had never expected that Qinfeng could actually obtain the power of psychedelics, and at such an early stage. Then, Shamia showed a bitter smile on her face. Does it mean that, no matter what, I am destined to work for the owner of the power of psychedelics? Suddenly, a mean voice came from the side. If you don't want to work, you can consider turning over and becoming a boss lady. Get lost. Qinfeng almost forgot that he had just released Osirio and raised his hand to put it into the mount space. Originally, I wanted to try Osirio's Hellshock and Deadfire Boneblade skills to see if they could increase the damage to the boss, but I didn't expect that these two skills were only legendary skills and were ineffective against mythical bosses. It seems that it is still necessary to give Osirio and Grey Chicken some higher level skills. Just like Shamia's Hell Boundary Monument, just after Qin Feng put Osirio into the mount space, the shadow blades that bounced endlessly around him finally stopped, because all 999 pieces of rubble in the field were finally shattered. Qin Feng remained alert to any possible situation, but fortunately, the strategy for this boss did end here. As long as all those rebels were shattered, the second World Spine would have been completely defeated. Player Shadow Daxia killed the mythical boss World Spine Mountain LV45 and gained 2,000 reputation points. The second World Spine was killed. The progress of Blue Star Civilization is accelerating. The third Desolation spread will come within 7 days. Please be prepared to The system prompt that the boss was killed resounded around the world, and everyone heard the same system prompt in different languages in their minds. As Qin Feng killed the second World Spine, the third Wasteland spread is coming soon, and when the third Wasteland spread ends, the third World Spine will be refreshed. At present, Qin Feng has not received any news about the third World Spine and needs to prepare well. And the system prompt, let all players around the world fall into shock and tension again. The shock is because Shadow has killed a mythical boss again, and it is level 45. It seems that the gap between all of them and Shadow has not narrowed, but has become larger and larger, and the tension is because of the upcoming third Wasteland spread. The second time the Wasteland spread, our living space was compressed by half again. Now the Wasteland spreads for the third time. Won't the living space be reduced again? There are already areas where the lifespan is lost 1,000 times in reality. If this continues, won't there be areas where the lifespan is lost 10,000 times? Now, the mild areas in reality will be fought over. Only powerful forces and guilds are qualified to occupy the mild areas. If the mild areas are not enough, I am afraid that some people will be forced to squeeze into the turbulent areas. After the advent of the godforsaken game, the real cruelty gradually appeared in front of the people who are still alive, even if they survive temporarily. If they don't strengthen their own strength, then just surviving will be a problem in the future. When Qin Feng killed the second World Spine, most of the players on Blue Star didn't know what it meant for them. The most important thing is the upcoming third Wasteland spread, but for Qin Feng, this kill is another milestone. When the boss died, the supergiant mountain that was originally towering into the clouds was directly blown into a pit, as if it had been hit by a meteorite. Qin Feng's death feather, the wings spread out, and took him to the middle of the desolate and silent deep pit, where he saw a broken greystone. It was the core part of the World Spine Mountain, which was now broken. Explode for me. Qin Feng glanced at the broken irregular stone, and suddenly, the stone exploded again. It exploded into countless pieces, and at the same time, the mythical and ancient loot on the ground exploded. The most conspicuous one among them, it exuded a black and gold light, indicating that it was an ancient equipment. Is it an assassin's or a divine weapon? Qin Feng reached out and picked it up, and his eyes lit up immediately. The ancient divine weapon? This thing is not ordinary. In the last life, there was only one in the world, in the hands of Tang Jun, the glacier mage of Daxia. Just when Qin Feng checked the boss drops, tasted the equipment and harvested, the second World Spine of Blue Star was killed, and the news spread directly to the major temples in the Land of Order. What? The second World Spine is gone too. Is Blue Star crazy? In the Blood Source Temple, the 8-armed temple master who had just lost an important reincarnation, Gain, when he heard the news for the first time, his eyes widened on the spot, and his 8 hands were clenched into 8 fists, obviously shocked beyond words. In front of him were the gods of the Blood Source Temple who were summoned by him. Among them was Qin Wuye. Originally, they gathered together to discuss the news about the Dream Temple. Someone actually obtained the great authority of the Dream Temple, which means that the Land of Order will set off a huge storm in the near future. No one can be immune. The top masters of the Blood Source Temple must also make preparations early, but unexpectedly. They just gathered together and had not discussed any results. Another new news came. On Blue Star, the second World Spine was just killed. It was only half a month after the previous World Spine was killed, 2.5 months to kill the first World Spine, 3 months to kill the second World Spine. Is the Blue Star Civilization going to the sky? Who is that genius? Qin Wuye. The 8-armed palace master looked at Qin Wuye with red eyes. You'd better pray that you and this genius are in the same camp, otherwise, when that genius comes to the Land of Order, our Blood Source Temple can't protect you. After all, such major events have happened one after another recently. It is very likely that the genius of your Blue Star Civilization has obtained the great authority of the Dream Temple. Qin Wuye was also extremely depressed when she heard this. She also wanted to know, who is the person who can do all this in the Blue Star, in the reincarnation? It's Qin Feng? It's Qin Feng! It's Qin Feng! Her heart began to pray frantically. After all, in her opinion, if it was Qin Feng that day, she would be able to gain the greatest benefit. Of course, Qin Wuye knew it very well in his heart. If that genius is really Qin Feng, then she will be in a very dangerous environment. Samsara Temple. This is a place that cannot be avoided. Everyone wants to know what happened in each of their reincarnations. If Qinfeng comes up, it will definitely be the same. However, the conditions for checking reincarnation memories in the Samsara Temple are very harsh. Even if Qinfeng wants to check the memories of previous reincarnations, it is impossible to do so in a short period of time. Besides, if people want to check memories, they must start from the most recent 2 lives. In the last reincarnation of Blue Star, I didn't kill them. In the last reincarnation, Qinfeng was also killed by Qin Xiaoyu, that idiot. Even if Qinfeng regains his memory, it has nothing to do with me. However, if that genius is really Qinfeng, we still have to prepare early. First, grab as many benefits as possible from him. When he meets the query conditions and wants to go to the Samsara Temple, I can also have sufficient preparation time to deal with it. Qin Wuyue thought calmly, but she didn't know that her ideas were completely useless. Because the prerequisite for her plans was that Qinfeng was completely unaware of the previous events, but unfortunately, Qinfeng knew enough. Of course, Qin Wuyue was only slightly imagining it at the moment, because she was also puzzled about the identity of the Blue Star genius. She hoped it was Qinfeng, but this possibility was still not very high. After all, with Qin Xiaoyu here, no matter how powerful Qinfeng is, he can't get rid of this burden. Qin Wuyue shook her head lightly. So in this blood source temple, the 8-armed Hallmaster of the Starry Sky Pirates royal family began to discuss with many gods for the different possible identity camps of the Blue Star genius and the different measures taken. The 8-armed Palace Master said in a deep voice, "From the current situation, the genius may pass the challenge and arrive at the Land of Order at any time. We must be prepared at any time, Qin Wuyue. If it is from your camp, then everything is fine. But if it is from the enemy camp of your great Xia," Qin Wuyue also frowned when he heard this. "Don't worry. I know what to do. If it is a North American player or a player from another country who comes up at that time, Qin Wuyue can only be humble first." Unlike the concerns of Qin Wuyue, the 8-armed Palace Master and others, the great Xia strongman Ye Zhuzhou, codenamed Eliminate Evil, who had just come up from Blue Star not long ago, was not so nervous at all. Because Ye Zhuzhou joined the Judgment Temple when he came to the Land of Order, unlike the subordinate temples of the general ancient gods. The status of the Judgment Temple and the Land of Order belongs to the first echelon. Among the hundreds of different temples, 9 of them have a transcendent status. The Temple of Judgment, the Temple of Reincarnation, the Temple of Death. The conditions for joining these 9 temples are quite harsh. Once you join, you will be equivalent to the ranks of civil servants in the Land of Order. Among them, the members of the Temple of Judgment are equivalent to the inspectors of the Land of Order. You should know that in the Land of Order, there are not no codes of conduct. Otherwise, there will be many cases where strong civilizations bully weak civilizations, suppress the development of weak civilizations, and the strong exploit the weak. But the reality is that the environment in the Land of Order is still relatively peaceful. If you want to become stronger, you can't rely on bullying other players. Everything depends on your own strength. Go to the wild to kill monsters. Those who take advantage of others by any means will not have a good end. In summary, the duty of the Temple of Judgment is to maintain order in the Land of Order, and Ye Zhuzhou, who eliminates all evil, has become a new member of the Temple of Judgment because of his strong sense of justice and his qualified combat power. The members of the Judgment Temple are greatly guaranteed to be safe in the Land of Order. Each of them has the power equivalent to surveillance. No matter where they are killed, the Judgment Temple will know. Killing members of the Judgment Temple, even if they are the masters of other temples, they have to think twice. Wow, are we so powerful on Blue Star? Ye Zhuzhou was on duty when his colleagues in the Judgment Temple informed him of a message saying that the current master of the Judgment Temple wanted to meet him and discuss the situation of this genius on Blue Star. This news made Ye Zhuzhou look confused. No, this is too outrageous, isn't it? The first one, the second one, the world spine, the reincarnation, challenge of the god of skeletons and the ancient god of natural disasters is the first and the psychedelic power of the dream god. Could this be accomplished by one person? Ye Zhuzhou was extremely shocked, because even he, with his current strength, could not accomplish these things alone. But, except for the world spine, all other things were done by one person. Could it be that he also killed the world spine alone? Ye Zhuzhou thought about it and shook his head quickly. Impossible. Although he has been in the Land of Order for a short time, he has heard some information about the world spine. Can a lone wolf player solve it? Everything. We still have to wait for the genius of Blue Star to come up? Ye Zhuzhou shook his head and did not think much about it. After all, the Judgment Temple where he is located has a special status. Even if the genius of Blue Star is not from Daxia, the impact on him is not as great as Qin Wuiyue's. In comparison, the Blood Source Temple where Qin Wuiyue is located does not have a good overall popularity in the Land of Order. So whether it is Qin Wuyu or the 8-armed Palace Master, they are so nervous about this matter. But the Judgment Temple is different. Even if geniuses from North America or other countries come to the Land of Order, they will definitely choose to maintain friendly relations with the Judgment Temple. However, the Temple Master said he wanted to meet me and discuss with me about the Blue Star Genius. I heard that the current Temple Master of the Judgment Temple is from the Angel Civilization, full of justice and a paranoid I have to be careful. Yijijo was very cautious, took out the teleportation stone, and returned to the city. Various news swept through the Land of Order. Each of the subordinate temples of the ancient gods began a deeper investigation and needed to understand the power relations of all aspects of Blue Star so as to prepare for the arrival of the Blue Star Genius. And in the Blue Star game area of the God Abandoned game, Qin Feng was happily tasting equipment. This time, Qin Feng's harvest from killing the second world spine was really rich. First of all, the second world spine, as a strengthened mythical boss, actually provided Qin Feng with 4 800 basic evolution points. You know, the first World Spine Sea gave Qin Feng only 2400 basic evolution points, basic 4800 points. I looked at it with my greedy eyes and got 31 extra rewards. Finally, I got 15 3600 evolution, evolution points. This wave is a big fortune. You know, Qin Feng just killed 3 legendary pre-bosses. Although there will be no system prompts after killing such auxiliary small bosses, the evolution points and experience points they provide are real. The 3 legendary bosses also brought Qin Feng more than 100,000 evolution points. In other words, Qin Feng has now obtained more than 250,000 evolution points in one wave. 250,000 evolution points, plus the little left before. It's still more than 20 solar points to save up 300. You can evolve the Blessing of the Thunder Fairy from the Immortal level to a higher level. Qin Feng has been looking forward to this moment for too long. Immortal level is the highest level of equipment and skills in the basic data of the godforsaken game. Above this, is it the original primary level? Qin Feng thinks not. But if it is not the original primary level, then what is it? How many levels are there between the Immortal level and the original primary level? As long as he evolves the Immortal level skill once, Qin Feng will get the answer, at least part of the answer. Of course, directly using the Abyss Shrine to abyssify the Immortal level skills is also a way, but unfortunately, Qin Feng has not brushed the second Abyss Shrine until now, which can be said to be extremely unlucky. I currently have quite a few Immortal level skills, but most of the evolutions require 500, Zelwyn, or even 800 Yozen evolution points. Qin Feng glanced at it. What puppet curse? Gift Liberation, Shadow Fold, etc. Because they are initial epic skills. They require 800 Zhaozen evolution points to evolve after reaching the Immortal level. The Death Goddess's Mercy and Bone Eviscerating Blade are divine special skills, and the required evolution points have a bonus, which Qin Feng does not have at the moment. There are also Instant Annihilation, Umbra Perception, and Source of the Upper level, which are initial legendary skills. To evolve from the Immortal level, 500 Zhaozen evolution points are required. Only the Blessing of the Thunder Fairy, an initial mythical skill, only needs 300 chosen evolution points to evolve from the Immortal level. It's almost there. Qin Feng quickly collected all the equipment that the boss exploded on the ground, and directly checked the ancient level assassin type divine weapon that exuded black and gold light. Eternal Mountains, World Shadow Armor, Divine Armor. Grade, Ancient level, Special. Upper threshold plus 1E, Inviolability 488, Assassin type armor. Physical defense plus 5960. All element resistance plus 5960. Damage reduction plus 74%. Solid defense plus 42%. Required level 45. Unique special effect, Eternal Power. The duration of all your buff states is increased by 720%. The final physical defense is increased by 100%. And the final all element resistance is increased by 100%. And then, unique special effect, Shadow Isolation. You gain 7% injury limit. Divinity. 12/7/127, 1 point of divinity is added every 13 years of life. Rule special effect, World Shadow. Consume 127 points of divinity to make the World Shadow cover the surrounding 7 kilometers area. In the area, you enter the absolute invisible state, gain 80% additional damage reduction, 80% all damage increase, 80% absolute dodge rate, 800% additional hit correction. World Shadow lasts for 5 minutes. A piece of armor. Qin Feng's eyes lit up. This equipment requires level 45. It seems that it is time to raise the level. Fortunately, I have accumulated a lot of experience recently, and it will be quick to reach level 45. Looking at the ancient divine weapon in his hand, this is an armor formed by the Gathering of Shadows. If the death smoke covering Qin Feng's legs gives people a feeling of eerie and death, then the armor formed by the Gathering of the Shadows of the World gives people a sense of heaviness and depth. The same black mist is lingering, but the feeling is completely different. This equipment is too powerful. Although the Ascension Machine has a resurrection effect, I have the Death Praise. And I don't lack this resurrection number. I'll throw it to the ghost later. Qin Feng was happy. He had never seen equipment of this level in his previous life. Tang Jun has the only ancient divine weapon in that reincarnation, but that equipment is far inferior to this World Shadow armor. After all, it was exploded from the World Spine. The things that exploded from the World Spine are supposed to be stronger, not to mention... Is it the higher level equipment that Qin Feng has seen after his greedy eyes? This equipment must be carefully crafted. Strengthen it first. Qin Feng carries a lot of strengthening stones with him. Strengthen this equipment directly. After refreshing many times and consuming dozens of strengthening stones, Qin Feng finally strengthened it to a satisfactory result. Damage reduction plus 70%, arrive 79%, strengthening range 75%, 6% 80, 2%. The damage reduction has been increased a little, and it has basically been strengthened to the top. Although this equipment has only 4 basic attributes, each value is explosively high. Even physical defense and all element resistance are basically useless to me. But the following special effects also bring a doubled final physical defense and final all element resistance. This kind of attribute that improves the final physical defense and element resistance is a very rare entry for players like Qin Feng, whose full body defense and elemental resistance mainly come from bloodline and attributes. This kind of final physical defense and final elemental resistance entry has extremely high benefits. Even other assassins will be tanky as long as they wear this equipment. Defense and damage reduction are skyrocketing. And there is also a 7% injury limit, which is simply outrageous. Unlike other attributes, the entry of injury limit takes the lowest value, not superimposed. So Qin Feng's leggings, Death Smokescreen, have a 23% injury limit, which conflicts with this 7% injury limit, and the final effective injury limit value is 7%. I can also strengthen the special effects of the equipment, just have to go back and give the equipment to Sister Yuan, explode it on Sister Yuan, and get equipment points. And the most important thing is, this World Shadow armor provides Qin Feng with a 720% gain state duration. This value can be said to be directly maxed out. You know, some of the ancient equipment Qin Feng had seen in his previous life were not divine weapons. And the duration of the buff state they provided was basically only about 100%, which was enough to greatly improve the player's combat power. How can this 720% be too much? From now on, the damage I receive will be delayed by default to 24, 6 seconds before it takes effect. The duration of various buff states has been increased to more than 8 times the original, and this Divine Rule special effect, World Shadow. Once this Divine special effect is activated, my combat power will be greatly improved within a 7-kilometer radius. One piece of equipment has transformed Qin Feng, but it's not over yet. Qin Feng saw that among the spoils he harvested this time, there was also an ancient assassin skill book. This ancient skill book is not a divine stunt, but it is a long-lost finishing move, Destruction Blade Ancient. Assassin finishing move, consume 500 combo points, flash to any location within 800 meters, and launch a slash at the 3x3 meter area in front of you. The slash hits and causes basic physical damage of physical attack defense, and the target is hit every 1 second. 8. 3% of the instant death scale is stacked for 8 seconds. Required level. Level 45. Destruction Blade. Qin Feng was a little shocked by this skill after just taking a look at the description. This damage is outrageous. If you just look at the description, you may not have any idea. But if you calculate it, you will know. Based on Qin Feng's current attributes, the basic damage of this Destruction Blade is already 5 times that of instant destruction. What's more, there is 8. 3% of the instant death scale is stacked every 1 second. But how did this value come from? Even Qin Feng was a little confused. He tried to adjust the value of his instant death affix and found that the instant death scale that this skill stacked every 1 seconds had indeed changed. When Qin Feng adjusted his instant death affix to 1 point, this skill could only stack 225% of the instant death scale every 1 seconds. When Qin Feng adjusted the instant death affix to 100 points, the instant death scale that this skill stacked every 1 seconds increased to 25%, which was 10 times higher than when it was 1 point. So this is another square root operation. Qin Feng quickly understood that the formula for stacking the instant death scale of this skill is to first find the square root of the instant death affix, then multiply it by 0.225, and finally add a percentage sign. As for the value of 0.25, it is related to the skill level, which is 1/200th of the skill level. It can be seen that the higher the skill level, the higher the instant death scale stacked per unit time. The higher the instant death affix of Qinfeng himself, the higher the instant death scale stacked per unit time. If I assign all the upper affixes to the instant death affix, it will be 1368 points. After this skill hits, it can stack 83% of the instant death scale every second. In other words, no matter what the damage is, it only takes a little over a second to kill any opponent in terms of the instant death affix. This is a percentage instant death scale, whether it is the upper threshold or the slowdown of the upper scale stacking. There is no way to resist its effect. The only effective means is to eliminate the means of eliminating one's own instant death scale. For example, Qinfeng's Old Scourge Snake Fang clears its own upper scale every 5 seconds. Or the skill Upper Source reduces the upper scale by 15% per second, etc. Of course, if you are immune to instant death like Qinfeng, you can also resist this move, the Silence Killing Blade, let alone the current blue star. Even in the Dark Blue Civilization, there are very few people who can resist it. To resist this move, at the current level, basically only rely on instant death immunity. Although there are not many means of instant death immunity, it is not completely impossible to obtain. However, although Qinfeng's Silence Killing Blade is strong, there is a very harsh release condition, 500 combo points. I evolved the Endmark skill to the Ancient level, which increased the combo point limit by 200 points. The Silence Killing Blade requires 500 combo points. Qinfeng could only say, "Are you kidding?" It seems that if I want to use this skill, I have to continue to evolve the Endmark, or come up with other skills that increase the combo point limit. This is why Qinfeng is more convenient. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would have to look for equipment and skills that increase the combo point limit, or there are also auxiliary skills that can reduce the combo point consumption of the finishing move. Regardless of whether such a high combo point limit can be achieved, the overall combat power will definitely be greatly affected. All attributes are stacked with the combo point limit, and it is impossible to take into account attack, defense breaking, penetration. So although this skill is strong, not everyone can use it. Fortunately, my skill can evolve. Qinfeng immediately became eager to try, because he found that this skill is an initial ancient skill. He can directly evolve it twice, consuming 210,000 evolution points, and surpass the highest immortal level. Although I have learned the initial ancient skill before, but it is either a divine stunt, and evolution requires additional evolution points, or it is the skill of Soul Dive. Soul Dive. This skill is useful, but the priority is obviously not high. Investing 210,000 evolution points is basically a loss. Unless the skill will bring a very high combat power improvement to Qinfeng after it evolves, but from the basic effect of this skill, after its skill evolves, most of the improvement is auxiliary ability, not the main combat skill. But the Destruction Blade is different. This skill, it is so powerful at the initial ancient level. What if it evolves twice? If it is 210,000, I can take it out now. Before, I was thinking about saving up 300,000 to evolve the Blessing of the Lightning Fairy. Now it seems that I have to evolve the Destruction Blade first. Qinfeng can only say sorry to Sister Yuan. It's not that he doesn't like the Blessing of the Lightning Fairy, but this Destruction Blade is too good, even if it is used to attack the boss. Except for the boss, that is completely immune to instant death like the World Spine. Other bosses are basically killed with one knife. What's more, this skill can also flash directly in the air, flash a knife, fatal and instant death. Who can resist it? In this case, evolve. Qinfeng thought for a while and chose to evolve this skill directly. First, spend 10,000 evolution points to evolve to the immortal level. Then, consume 200,000 evolution points and evolve again. Destruction Blade, Ancient, level arrive, Immortal level arrive, Old Days. Consume 500 combo points. Flash to any location within 800 arrive, 1200 arrive, 600 meters, and launch a slash at the 3 meter area in front of the body. The slash hits and causes the basic physical damage of physical attack T arrive 24 arrive 36, and the target is hit. Every 1 second. 8. 3% arrive 11, 7% arrive 16. 6% of the instant death scale is stacked, which lasts for 8 seconds. Required level 45. New effect of immortal level. The combo points consumed by releasing the skill are halved. New effect of old skills. The target hit by the slash will have its death meter cleared by 50%. Note 1. This skill is an old skill. With an initial sedimentation age of 0 years, each use will consume an additional 0 divinity points, which can suppress divine stunts and divine rules with a lower consumption. Note 2. All your old skills will increase their sedimentation age as you survive. The longer the sedimentation age, the stronger the skill effect, the more divinity is consumed each time it is used, but it can also suppress more divine stunts and divine rules. Note 3. You can consume evolution points to increase the sedimentation age of old skills. A series of system prompts came, and Qinfeng was stunned. Old skills. Sedimentation age. Originally, Qinfeng thought that when this skill evolved to above the immortal level, it would be eternal level, chaos level, or something like that. After all, isn't that what it's written in novels? Unexpectedly, an old day skill came, above the immortal level. It's the old day. And for the same old day skills, or old day equipment, there is a difference in the age of sedimentation. Old day skills. Old day equipment. The longer the sedimentation age, the stronger the effect, the higher the attribute, and it will also consume additional divinity, forming a suppression of divine special skills and divine rules. This was something Qinfeng had never expected, and the old day equipment and old day skills reminded Qinfeng of something that was the old day Calamity Snakefang on him. This thing, I learned from Sister Yuan, is an old day biological component. Then if it is through normal channels, old skill books, and old equipment, can they only be obtained by hunting old creatures? The older the old creatures, the older the old equipment and old skill books will be. It seems that the real challenge in the Land of Order is these old creatures that exist in an unknown place. To sublimate a civilization, it is necessary to gather the power of the entire civilization to defeat an immortal level boss. But this does not mean that players who have sublimated civilization can easily hunt immortal level bosses. First, the level of the boss in the Land of Order is higher. Second, the boss in the Land of Order will no longer be hunted by players from an entire civilization together, even if so many people really go there. How to divide the things that are exploded. Therefore, Qinfeng guessed that in the Land of Order, old level equipment and skill books are equally rare, and the mainstream combat equipment of most players is only legendary and mythical. After all, the condition for reaching the Land of Order is at least a full set of mythical equipment. So mythical is the foundation. Above this, the equipment and skill books of the ancient and immortal levels are all higher level things, and not everyone has the ability to obtain them. And things of the old days level are even rarer. After all this time, there is still such a big level between the immortal level and the original primary level. Old days, there be years. Old days, 10 years. Old days, 100 years. Old days, 1,000 years. How many years will this end? It seems a bit endless. But it is precisely because of this that the original primary level has truly shown its class. Things of the original primary level do not seem to be obtainable through the general process of the God-forsaken game. Only through special channels and through certain specific challenges can there be a very small probability of obtaining them. It seems that the original primary things are all related to great power. This is really not something that ordinary players can get involved in. I just don't know how many years have those powerful people's old equipment and old skills accumulated in the Land of Order. The bad news is that there must be many old people in the Land of Order who have accumulated a lot of old equipment and skills. But the good news is, Qinfeng can use evolution points to directly increase the accumulation age of old skills. You can only improve skills, not equipment, just like before. And this upgrade consumes too much, right? Qinfeng just checked it out and found that to upgrade the old level Silence Killing Blade to Old Days Dictabep 1 year, you have to consume 100,000 evolution points, 100,000 evolution points a year. Wouldn't it take 10 million evolution points for 100 years? What the hell? This time even Qinfeng was broken. But it's okay. Qinfeng realized that development in the Land of Order is definitely a long-lasting process. Even he can hardly develop at the speed of a blue star. Qin Wuye has already developed for 200 years. If I'm given 200 years, how many evolution points can I earn? Qinfeng didn't even dare to think about it. There is no need to go to the Land of Order. You only need to go to the Blue Civilization in the God-abandoned game area that is in the process of sublimation. There are more mythical boss, and even ancient boss and immortal boss will appear. Wouldn't it be great to wait for Qinfeng to go there and harvest? When Qinfeng came to his senses, he finally began to check the evolution of this destruction blade. The flashing distance is farther. With my current 14 times skill range, 1600 meters becomes 22, 4 kilometers. Flash to any position within 22, 4 kilometers at any time, and give people a fatal blow. Qinfeng feels that he is now terribly strong. If you don't have the Umbra Perception skill, the skill with the cooperation, Qinfeng couldn't play at all. After all, he couldn't see what was so far away, so how could he flash over? But it was different with the Umbra Perception. Qinfeng had a full eye view of all the surrounding situations and was in control of everything. The basic physical damage has also quadrupled. which is equivalent to the damage of 4 instant annihilations. The instant death scale stacked per second has also doubled, and it only takes 7 seconds to stack from 0 to 100%. The most important thing is the target hit by this skill will have its instant death scale eliminated by half. This is easy to understand. For example, Qinfeng's Old Calamity Snake Fang takes effect every 5 seconds. And each time it takes effect, it will eliminate 100% of Qinfeng's upper scale. If Qinfeng is hit by this Old Calamity Killing Blade, then the Old Calamity Snake Fang can only eliminate 50% of his instant death scale each time it takes effect. The same is true for any other means of elimination, unless the divinity consumed by the skill exceeds that of the Destruction Blade. In other words, when we reach the Land of Order, we're playing with divinity suppression. The higher the divinity, the greater the advantage. Moreover, the special effects of old skills and equipment will consume additional divinity corresponding to their sedimentation age when used, Qinfeng murmured softly. After hearing what Qinfeng said, the Frost Elf Ling Che surrounding him said helplessly, "In the Land of Order, except for those top powerhouses, most players play with Order, not Divinity. Shadow, your level is a bit ahead of the times." Qinfeng had a question mark on his face. Order. Isn't Order something that can be broken with a little divinity? In the Land of Order. This kind of thing is still played, but it seems quite normal when you think about it. After all, the name of the Land of Order has the word Order in it. I'm ahead of the times. Qinfeng looked at the psychedelic bracelet divinity inherent on his body, a little confused. This thing has gathered thousands of divinities now? If it plays with Order, who can beat it? Ling Cho seemed to sense Qinfeng's mood and suddenly became a little serious. Shadow, don't be too careless. Even if you play with Order, you may not be able to beat others. Although you can consume divinity to offset the opponent's Order effect, if the opponent has too much Order, you will need to consume a lot of divinity. After all, the strong in the Land of Order have dozens or hundreds of orders entering their bodies. If you want to offset those orders at the same time, the divinity consumed is not as simple as dozens or hundreds of times, but will be accumulated extra. Not to mention others just say the purple fairy you keep in the guild. If you really fight, she can suck your divinity dry in an instant. When these words came out, Qinfeng was even more stunned. Sister Yuan, can you suck me dry in a fight? Qinfeng was a little shocked. He found that Sister Yuan's level seemed to be higher than he thought. Okay, since you said so, I'll go back and try later. Qinfeng took out the teleportation stone with hundreds of equipment and prepared to go home. This time the harvest is good. Then next, it is necessary to settle down and digest the recent harvests. 3 bloodline slots, and I haven't found bloodline monsters yet. The God's Chosen slate from the Dream Goddess Ludus can also brush 3 God's Chosen attributes. In addition, Qinfeng has to quickly upgrade to level 45. Soon, Qinfeng counted all the spoils from the World Spine. The amount of equipment obtained from killing the second World Spine this time was even more exaggerated than when he killed the first World Spine, because Qinfeng's Hand of Greed Abyss turned into the Eye of Greed. More extra spoils were dropped. In addition, the second World Spine itself had a much higher drop rate than the first. Among these spoils, Qinfeng first synthesized all the mythical equipment and skill books. 7 in 1? If you are lucky, you can get ancient equipment or skill books of the assassin system. Unfortunately, the combination did produce assassin stuff, but one of them was an ancient assassin's double sword, which is definitely not as strong as the Judgment Blade and the White Bud Blade, and it is impossible to replace it. There is also an assassin skill book, which is another soul dive. The types of high-grade skill books are much less than those of low-grade skills, so it seems normal to have duplicate skill books. Qinfeng shook his head and didn't think much about it. After doing this, he still had a lot of ancient level equipment and mythical level equipment on him, most of which were useless. Unless it was a particularly top-grade equipment, Qinfeng would keep it for other professions. Of course, there was also a special piece of equipment, which Qinfeng also kept. It was a special necklace. Simple pendant mythical. Universal necklace? No attributes, no level requirements. Bah. Unique special effect. The learning level of skill books that match your profession is reduced by 8 levels. Man, Qinfeng had seen this kind of equipment in his previous life. It looked very powerful, but it was actually useless. Although it allows players to learn skills 8 levels in advance, but the key is that if this necklace is replaced, the skills learned in advance cannot be effective and used. If the level requirements are not met, it will become gray and disabled. If you wear this necklace, then the properties of the missing necklace most of the time will be quite fatal. So, there are very few times when this equipment can be used, but Qinfeng happened to be able to use it. The reason why he was able to learn the Destruction Blade that requires level 45 just now was because he temporarily changed to this necklace. Although this skill will not be usable after the pendant is replaced, as long as Qinfeng learns it, he can evolve it and swallow it with the Soul Devourer bloodline. In the future, If he encounters a skill book that is no more than 8 levels higher than his own level, Qinfeng can change it and learn it directly. As for whether to evolve it after learning or feed it to the Soul Devourer bloodline, it depends on whether the skill is useful. When Qinfeng sorted out the harvest from killing the World Spine this time, he quickly returned to the Evil Spirit Academy. He found the rogue Fairy Yuan. When Fairy Yuan saw that Qinfeng brought back so many equipments this time, she was shocked, and her purple eyes widened. So many equipments again? Where did you get them from? It is no exaggeration to say that there are dozens of ancient equipments in total, which are not so easy to obtain even in her hometown, the fairy world. Ancient equipments, even in the sublimated civilization, are already high-end combat equipments. Even the strong who have set foot in the land of order may not have a set of ancient equipments. As a result, Qinfeng directly threw dozens of ancient equipments to her, let her change them, and then exploded them. Wait, this assassin's clothes, 43 ancient level? Although it reduces the final movement speed by 33%, but adds 75% damage reduction. Very tanky. Are you sure you want to explode it? Fairy Yin was a little surprised when she saw one of the assassin's armors. Qinfeng smiled and said, "It's gone. I have something better." The Fairy Yuan felt a little bit unbelievable. How long has Qinfeng developed? This level of ancient assassin clothes? The attributes are actually poor. There are better ones. How good are they? Okay. The beautiful fairy sighed, picked up the assassin clothes with some regret, and then raised her hand and changed the clothes in a lavender mist. When the purple mist gradually dissipated, what appeared in front of Qinfeng was a slender purple fairy wearing assassin-style tight armor. The temperament of the assassin-style equipment added a bit of mystery to the beautiful fairy. Even Qinfeng looked at her a few more times with some appreciation. However, Qinfeng obviously didn't have any thoughts of sympathizing with women, and directly activated the ruthless crushing rules of the Night Lotus Curse Seal Death Crusher, and began to attack the Fairy Yuan. Shadow Blades attacked the opponent's graceful figure. The purple fairy looked resentful. Why is the damage so high? Be gentle. Be gentle. I can't stand it. Qinfeng tried a little. No. Sister Yuan, you have so many orders on you. There must be some damage-free orders. Can't you just take effect a little bit? Fairy Yuan pursed her lips. It's easy to say. Don't you want to explode the equipment? If my sister is immune to damage, how can your equipment explode? Qinfeng was embarrassed. That's right. It should be said that the durability of this ancient equipment is much higher than the previous equipment. Qinfeng has to activate the Ruthless Crushing rule for more than 10 or 20 seconds on average to crush an ancient equipment. There are more than 50 pieces of ancient equipment in total, and Qinfeng spent a full 15 minutes to crush them all, which consumed nearly 10,000 years of life in total. Fortunately, the harvest is also gratifying. After this wave of equipment crushing, Qinfeng's equipment points are enough for him to strengthen the equipment special effects many times. The main thing is the special effects of the new equipment, Ancient Mountains World Shadow Armor. Of course, Qinfeng was not in a hurry to strengthen the special effects. After all, his level has not reached yet, and he can't wear this equipment for the time being. Rush to level 45 first. Qinfeng still has a lot to do next. For example, find bloodline monsters, break through the second level of the Road to the End, and the inverted pyramid in the middle of the Jinling ruins can also be visited. But Qinfeng decided to upgrade all the places that can be quickly improved in the near future before going to the challenging activities such as the Road to the End to get a higher ranking. For bloodline monsters, a list has been listed for Daxia officials to pay attention to for ancient god runes. Daxia officials are also paying attention to collecting them. To watch the attributes of the God-chosen slate, you need to swipe monsters. To swipe the Abyss Shrine, you need to swipe monsters in the Abyss world. To unlock the skeleton power, you need to swipe undead skeleton monsters. The most urgent task is to swipe monsters. So, Qinfeng started to operate again, took the invincible crystal ball of the Blue Mermaid tribe, quit the guild, and went to the Pacific Game Zone next to the Magic City. Let the Blue Mermaid Prince Didi Boji start the attack of the ocean monsters. 3 days later, Qinfeng successfully reached level 45. At the same time, Qinfeng finally washed out 3 very good attributes from the God's Chosen slate from the Dream God.